Howdy folks, we're still here at Chitwa Dam and we've been doing a little bit of bird watching while we're watching this mommy hippo with her little baby. And if you wait a little bit, you'll see him pop up every now and then. Now, hippos, they have a gestation period of about 8 months, and they will normally only give birth to one little baby. So you can see here, obviously, you know, hippos spend pretty much all of the day in the water, unless it's a little bit cooler outside. You know, it's mostly to do with thermoregulation, while they stay in the water and exit the water at night to go and graze on grass. They are mid-gut fermenters, so quite similar to that of rhinoceros or elephant in the way their digestion works. A little bit different, but more or less the same. And they can hold their breath underwater for about 6-7 minutes. But this little baby obviously not quite got the lung capacity as mommy, so you'll see she goes down underneath the water and stays under quite a lot longer than the little baby, and then he pops up now. See the little ears wagging there, just shaking the water out of the ear flaps. And I just wanted to welcome once again the school group, and I'd like to ask you a little question. We're going to zoom back to those hippos in a second, but I wonder if any of you in the next few minutes can tell me how you can tell between a male and female hippopotamus when they're in the water. When they're out of the water, it's a little bit easier, but in the water, when you can only see the head like that, does anybody know how you can tell between male and female? I'll give you a few minutes to answer, otherwise I will give you the answer and put you out of your misery if you can't find it. But just to set the scene, we've got a plethora of birds calling here. We've got the blacksmith plover along the banks. We had some red-winged prating coals, and there was a whole lot of Egyptian geese. They all seem to have moved off at the minute, but there are some still further on in the distance over there. Their VM is getting them now. And as the birds all sit along the banks here, there's some of the red-winged prating coals. Don't know if VM can see them. They're just a little bit before those Egyptian geese. Also right near the water's edge, there's some double-banded plovers, and this is a birder's paradise all around the water here at the moment. Hanover School, the question being, how old is that little baby? Well, that baby cannot be much older than a few months. It is quite difficult to age them, especially when they're in the water like that, but having a look nice and closely there, it is still very small. You know, the adults, they will get to about 1.5 or 2,000 kilograms when they're adults, but as a small little baby like that, I would hazard a guess at being between 4 and 5 months old. No more than that. It's probably even less, but probably still nursing off the mother. But during the day, obviously, this is all down to just that thermoregulation. You know, their skin is not designed to be in the hot African sun, so they spend, as I said, most of the day in the water, in the nice cool water, exiting at night when that harshness of the sun has subsided, and then that's when they'll go off and graze. So generally this is their resting time, and you'll normally only have one dominant male in a big pool like this. He won't generally tolerate any of the other dominant bulls in the area. And I do hear that there are some answers coming through. I'm just going to wait to see if any of you are right. as to how you know what is a male or female hippo in the water when you can only see their heads. Okay, so 2 answers coming from the questions there. Is it the ears or is it the snout? In fact, a little bit to do with the snout, but I'll get to that in a moment. The ears are almost identical between male and female, so it's not to do with the ears at all. Male and female will have very similar ears. As that animal comes up now, have a look around the eye. Just to the right of the ears. Okay, she's closing her eyes now. Okay, there, I've given it away already. But this is a female. Obviously, we know that as well because of the little baby. But the babies can hang around the males sometimes. So this is a female, and it's quite similar to that of humans. You know, the ladies like to put makeup around their eyes and on their lips. The female hippos are very, very pink around the eyes, and the males are a lot darker, so they don't have that pinkness that the females have. And when she comes up again, Viam's going to go in a little bit closer there, and we're going to show you, and then maybe before we move off I can show you a male. But you see how pink she is around the eyes? That is very indicative of a female hippopotamus. Now, you did say about the snout. Yes, you can see a little bit around the snout of the males because they have got much bigger bulges coming from those big tusks that they have for fighting. Now we've got a bird flying through here, and Viam's just going to try and locate it. It looks like a bit of a juvenile. I haven't quite identified it yet. You know, we often have that mottling color on juveniles. Looks like it might be a Wahlberg's eagle, but I can't see it quite clear enough just yet. Anyway, we're going to have a look at that in a minute. And if we can just get in nice and closely there. You know, birds that are associated with water pools like this, you'll have the African fish eagle, you'll have ospreys. You know, I'm talking in terms of the larger birds. And it looks like something smaller is going up there to mob it and chase it away. And yes, it looks like a pied crow. They're also like the fork-tailed drongos. They don't like any big birds of prey around. So they will generally go up and try and mob and chase them away. And you can have very often a few birds doing that. Alrighty folks, I think we're going to try and move off in a little bit, but I think Brent has got some animals to show you in the Mara.
Well, we got some very, very lazy spotted hyena from the governor's clan. They look like they've had a good feed, and there is a lot of food around for them at the moment. And here we go, hello, pop your head up, and that is a very fat hyena. Now, the hyenas in the Mara do a lot of their own hunting, so not only scavenging, and as Jar goes out, you'll have a look behind and just see how many animals are actually down here around the marsh.
Sorry about that, everyone. Brent has disappeared off your screens, but we're here, and we've made our way back to the Four Musketeers. The 4 massive, dark mane, dominant male lions of this particular section of Mara River. So this, if I'm not very much mistaken, is Hunter, one of the 4 males, and he is sporting quite a nasty injury on his back. You can't see it at the moment, it's hidden behind the grass, but he really looks as though he's got a bit of a bedhead now, doesn't he? Look at him. He's all tousled from a day spent sleeping in the grass. Now, unfortunately, to make it back in time for the gate closing, I'll probably have to leave them before they're really going to start thinking about getting up. But with rain in the air and the sun disappearing behind the clouds, it might just encourage them to get moving earlier than they might otherwise, particularly with such empty bellies. So he's using his barbed tongue to clean and realign his fur, get rid of all of those itchy insects and parasites that might have jumped on board while he's been lying in the grass. A rare treat. Amelia, the temperature right now, I believe when we started the drive it was around about 25 degrees centigrade, so 76 Fahrenheit. It's a little bit cooler now. One thing that we find in the Masai Mara, it's quite high in terms of altitude, so the temperature stays and it's close to the equator, so the temperature stays relatively constant and relatively cool, at least by our terms. So in the low veld of South Africa in the summer, it's not uncommon for temperatures to go over 40 degrees centigrade, whereas out here, if we go over 30, it's a really, really hot day. But one of the things that I will do, and I will tell you about traveling to the Mara, take lots of sunblock and long-sleeved shirts, because the sun is very, very strong here. We're very close to the equator, and it is potent. Something that these lions know all too well, and they've spent their day curled up in the shade of the tree. But now that the sun's disappeared behind the clouds, they're out in the open. So I mentioned 4 of them. There's one over there, with his legs up in the air, cooling himself down by exposing his belly. And then there's 2 others off to my right, one of whom is world famous. His name is Scar. He's the guy at the back. And then one that I haven't positioned myself properly, so Manu can't actually quite reach him. Sorry, Manu. All 4 of these boys are limping a little bit, but Hunter is definitely the one with the worst injury. And Nave is wondering about what that injury was caused by. I don't know. It could be one of 2, it could be a couple of different explanations. Most likely would be either a fight with another male lion. So these 4 are part of a coalition. They work together to defend their territory, and they are closely bonded to each other. But any strange male lion could potentially have been responsible during a fight over territory or over a female. Or it was an injury that he got during a hunt, whether they were trying to catch a buffalo or an antelope or a hippo. Particularly where large male lions are concerned, they tend to go for larger prey species, and something like a buffalo would be very capable of inflicting an injury like that. There is a third option, and that's that it came from one of his coalition members during a scrap over a meal or over a female. But usually when coalition members fight, they don't really injure each other quite so seriously. There's the odd scratch and the odd accidental puncture, but not to the extent that this injury. It's deep. It's a deep scrape. And not a scrape, it's not a scrape, it's a cut. It's a deep slice through his back leg. Now, unfortunately for the school joining us this afternoon, that is actually all that we have time for. I believe that you have to be getting on with your Monday. So good luck with that. I hope you enjoyed. I hope we see you again soon. We'll say farewell from all of us here at Safari Live, and we hope to see you again. For the rest of our regular viewers, off you pop back across to South Africa to join Noelle, perhaps to talk about more tracks. I'm not sure what she has in mind.
Thanks, Jamie, and thanks, Hanover High School. We have a Woodland Kingfisher. Oop, I'll be quiet. Hold on. Do it again. I'm assuming we can all hear that, hey? Now, my assumption on this is that it's calling for its mate, that it probably has already found. There comes the mate overhead. Did we hear it? No, it's already flown off. And then in the background, There's what I'm assuming is another male that can hear this one and is calling the typical sound we would hear of a woodland at this time of year, that chit-chitter. I'm sorry, I can't repeat it very well. There's also a red-chested cuckoo in the background there. I just want to see if this one will display a little bit or possibly give us the full call. Or possibly hunt for us. Let's just wait and see. The light's really nice and he's sitting not far from our vehicle at all. Can we hear the red-chested cuckoos in the back that beat my throw, beat my throw?
I can pick it up, but I don't know if that's the case.
Pisces, Bobby, you are correct. It is the Woodland Kingfisher is a very striking looking bird. If he will turn around for us, it would be nice, as you'll get to see that sort of azure turquoise blue, but this preening that he's doing now, sorting his feathers out, oh, come on, buddy, do it. He wants to show off a little bit. I mean, he's been sitting here for 3 or 4 minutes now. They don't usually sit still for so long, so he's been very kind to us. He's feeling very self-important, pushing his breast feathers out, puffing himself up a little bit, helping him get his beak into the feathers there, getting into the preening gland, getting the oil spread around, cleaning, taking out any sort of feather that's misplaced and putting it back, or removing any sort of misplaced plumage that will hinder his ability to fly. Sorry, I don't know why it took me so long to get those words out, but there you go. So he pooed, which means he should fly, because they evacuate their bowels to make themselves lighter before they fly off. And most all birds, all birds that fly will do this. You'll see it a lot with raptors as well, birds of prey. And of course, because I said that out loud, he's like, nope, Noelle, I'm going to do the exact opposite because you said it out loud. That's what they normally do. I always, it's interesting. You can know the behavior of the organisms that you're looking at out here, and 8 times out of 10, they'll do what you speak about, but every now and then they're just determined to do the complete opposite of what you know that they usually do. Just to remind us that they do not, in fact, read the books, nor do they do everything. Oh, there, now we can see the colors. Gorgeous. Thanks, buddy. See those blues. So for those of you, and then he flies off. Thanks. So for those of you that watch the show often, we've been doing the Woodland Kingfisher since he's come back a couple weeks ago. I believe our first sighting on camera for Djuma was the 12th of November, if I'm remembering correctly, but you all would know or remember a little bit better than I would. Yeah, we've been enjoying him, and so every chance we get, we'd like to put him up on screen, and it's also nice for all of our new viewers to have a look at one of our summertime's most beautiful bird species. Alright, so we're going to carry on. I couldn't get a glimpse of that red-chested cuckoo. He was just calling in the background, and we'll see if we can find our nemesis bird, the Colossus cuckoo. We're going into a good area for them. So while I'm busy bird hunting for all of you, we're going to head back up to the Mara and back up to Brent, who I'm sure has something amazing he would like to share.
Isn't this beautiful? Look at these little Ellie bulls and all the zebras behind them. Now, I'm going to try get you a view. Oh, isn't that great? Oh, that light, and they're walking straight towards us. But heading towards them is a very impressive beast. And he's a lovely big elephant tusker. There he is. I'm just going to move a little bit and see if they're going to greet each other. Just going to get opposite them. Oh, this is magic light. with some big ellie bulls. And I think, unfortunately for, well, not for the elephants, but for Jahawi and myself, we might get a little bit damp. There's some rain coming from behind the ellies. Oh, he's not being very, well, this guy is being very nice, but the big tusker is not really being too forthcoming. He's wandering upstream through the rocks. You might be able to hear the wind that's bringing the rain towards us. You can see the clouds building, and that little bit of haze behind them is definitely a bit of wet weather. I'm going to try get us a better view of the tusker. Dave says, I can't move away from my laptop. Indeed, Dave, it's just been one of those afternoons. We're being truly spoilt. Now, he's put his head back in a bush he's feeding, but hopefully we can get a view of those lovely long teeth when he turns around. Hi, guys. Hello, big boys. Oh, elephant bulls, I do love spending time with them. There you can see the sun shining off that long ivory on his left tusk. Mike's wondering, how large do elephant herds get? Well, Mike, it all depends. Elephant bulls tend to form little bachelor groups like this, or will be solitary and not really spend too much time with the herds. The herds are generally made up of small family groups, sort of 3 to 5, sometimes up to 6 or 7 adult females and their female offspring and their young male offspring that are below 15. And sometimes you get big congregations of elephants, herds that look like they're over 100 or 200, but that'll be actually be made up of a lot of smaller herds, and then they'll split after those congregations. These boys are so beautiful. Susan's wondering, are female elephants ever solitary? They can be, but it's very unlikely, and probably not by choice. If you see a female elephant by herself, she's probably been separated from her herd, and she'll probably look to try rejoin the herd. And you can hear the roar of the Mara River behind the ellies, as well as the roar of the wind that's come back to haunt us again. Not nearly as bad as yesterday though, but it is starting to pick up. Let's hope the rain stays away for a little longer. Well, as the ellies move off, we're going to do the same, see what else is around the Musiara Marsh. Bill's wondering, how tall is that tusker? Let's have one last look there. Sorry, Jahawi. He's probably about 4.5 meters at the shoulder, be my estimate. 4.3 meters at the shoulder. Conservative. Big boy. We're going to let him carry on munching on the crotons. And we're going to head back down towards the Musiara Marsh, but we're going to go around the opposite side to where we were a little bit earlier. There's some interesting spots in this area, and I'm hoping we're going to see them shortly. I've just got to remember where the next road goes. Should be up above these rocks. I haven't been in this area for a very long time. Well, there's a hyena following an elephant. Well, not really, he's just walking behind an elephant. What are you doing, hyena? Oh, and decided walking too close to the elephant was a bad idea. He's going to go around. Another lovely big bull. Oh, the hyena's about to run past. There he is. Elephant taking no notice whatsoever. We've seen a lot of hyenas this afternoon. Oh dear. Are we about to get wet? I don't know. Oh yeah, well, I negotiate my way through this rocky area. Let's go. Oh, that's a much bigger, deeper hole than it looked like. Let's go all the way back to South Africa to see what Ralph is up to in the sunshine.
Driving around, as I've said, always during the middle of the day, it's always quite slow. But here we've stopped just next to a hammerkop's nest, and it really looks just like a whole bunch of sticks thrown together, quite similar to that of the red-billed buffalo weavers. But this is a hammerkop nest, and that is an Afrikaans word, hammer meaning hammer, and kop meaning head. So hammerkop. It's a brown bird. It looks very similar to that of a hardy-daw ibis, and even in flight, a very similar sort of ungainly, flappy flight. But these birds, they take quite a long time to build these nests, and I'm sure that you can see that hole there. That is their sort of at the bottom of the nest, of the big rubble. They build that little hole, and right at the last second they will fly up to that nest, and at the last second they tuck their wings in and they shoot into that little hole there. So, and it's quite big on the inside. It's got quite a big chamber. They will line it with mud and feces, and a lot of the other birds will actually use the top of that nest. Owls and vultures and eagles, they will use that as a nesting site on top as well. So the hammerkop actually fulfills quite a big niche for a lot of other birds. If they can't find a nice flat platform, or there's no cliffs or rocks around, they will then come to nest on top of hammerkop's nest. But the pairs will actually come back each year generally, and keep building on top of this nest. But they can go off and make alternative nests, and then you can have other birds like the pygmy falcons and all sorts start to nest in the side or nest inside that region of the hole there that they've vacated. So very interesting. And hammerkops, they generally feed on small fish and frogs. So when you have these nests like this, they're generally not far from water, and they're normally made in nice big jackalberries, big trees like jackalberries. Wendy, a question coming from Wendy: how big is a hammerkop? Well, if you have an idea of how big a hardy-daw ibis is, or any ibis, they're not very big birds, but they're not very small either. They're sort of in the region of about 35 to 45 centimeters. In inches, we're talking at about 10 inches big. So they're not huge birds. So when you look at the nest, it's quite incredible how they've built such a big nest in comparison to the size of the bird. Now, as I was saying, they like to eat little fish, but their favorite food are little frogs and tadpoles. So they will always build these nests very close to water and along riverine edges, in big trees, like I was saying, jackalberries, sometimes in leadwoods. This is obviously a dead tree, but they do generally need to put it in a nice big fork. And there's a lot of folklore with the local Shangaan people around the Hammerkops. You know, they respect them very much because of this building of this nest and how they fulfill such a big niche within their environment. So, as I was saying, we're just on our way to try and see what else we can find. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update, and this is what we spotted on the way. But we're going to continue on a little bit. We're sort of just going through a little bit of a drainage line here, and we've just come past the Chitwa Lodge and the Chitwa Dam. But we're going to continue on now, and you can see as we drive along here, this sort of vegetation always changing. And the question coming, do Hammerkops tolerate other Hammerkops? You know, generally they would tolerate, but they're not extremely territorial, but they will tolerate other Hammerkops, but you don't generally find too many in the same area. You know, they're not heavily populated kind of birds, so you know there's not a whole lot of Hammerkops. They're not prolific breeders, so you know they'll only breed with 2 or 3 in a year, and if one of them or 2 of them survive, that's quite a good success rate. But so you're not generally seeing too many Hammerkop in any particular area, but very, very particular kind of bird. And with that nest, I think the only second to them in the size of the nest that is built is that of the sociable weavers, and they're only tiny little birds like this, but they make their nests in the deserts of Namibia. Now, not sure if Noelle has found you anything, but we're going to cross to her for the time being while I continue on and see what we can find.
Ralph, I have found a tree, something that the birds need to nest in. I worked with 2 gentlemen. One was a big tree guy and one was a big bird guy, and they used to have these long debates after some tree or the bird. Would say, oh, but the tree only started growing there because of the bird, depending on the type of tree it was. But for me, I like them both equally the same. They're both important parts of the ecosystem, and this particular tree is one of my all-time favorites. This is a leadwood tree, Combretum imberbe. So leadwoods live to be around about 1,000 years, and then when they die, they stay standing for up to about 100 years. Then it'll fall over, and it takes, I believe, about another 50 years to decompose. This is very, very, very dense wood. So it has a very light-colored bark. It almost reminds me of the color of elephant skin or rhino skin. I lean a little bit more towards the elephant because it's a little bit wrinkly. Rhinos tend to have a smoother skin to them. And then you've got these big, beautiful branches coming off. If you notice, can you do where it makes the fork, and then there's the one that goes to the left, and you can see all of the coppicing coming off the top? Ah, perfect. So on that limb, you guys can all see the major fork, and then on that limb, and then we can go up and to the left. Perfect. You see all these little branches coming off and growing off this, what looks to me to be a part of the tree that is sort of dying off. You can actually see the new growth coming there. Amanda, you're asking if this tree flowers. Amanda, that is a super interesting question. I've only ever seen it with the Samoras, with the seed pods. I've never actually seen a flower, and now that I'm talking out loud to you, I'm racking my brain, but having quite the Noelle moment about it. My file 13 is not engaging. I'm so sorry. So I believe when they do, you know what, we were chatting with Steph about this on a bushwalk the other day, about how very little we see Combretum flowers. And yes, of course, most trees need to flower, and we were chatting about how we have actually never smelled a Combretum flower, and that day on walk we actually got it. And I was talking with Steph after we went off air. I was like, I don't think I've ever seen a Combretum flower. Now that particular Combretum, a Combretum is a type of bush willow, and also this leadwood here, I believe, was a red bush willow. And so yes, this leadwood, being a Combretum, would have flowers, but I cannot for the life of me think if I've ever seen them. I've only ever seen the seed pods. See, there's something new every day. So now, This tree is a conserved tree. It used to be used for, oh gorgeous, we're getting that pale morph. Wahlberg's has just landed beautifully in our leadwood tree and called for us. Not the Marshall's eagle. I had such a slip of tongue yesterday. This is in fact our Wahlberg's eagle. It's the female. Her nest is, I believe it's the female. Her nest is on the other side. The reason why I believe it's the female, she's slightly bigger than the partner she's with, who is the dark morph. So this tree is a conserved tree. They used to use it for railway sleepers, the wood, and also to make furniture. But in South Africa, you're no longer allowed to cut this down. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, darling. We're no longer allowed to cut it down for furniture or for railway sleepers for any reason like that, because it takes them so long to grow that if you just cut them down willy-nilly, you're going to be left with no leadwood trees eventually. And the other interesting thing that I love about this tree that helps me figure out sort of how tall it is in relation to sort of the ecosystem around it, and I know that's going to sound a little bit funny, but just work with me here. As tall as it grows up, the root structure goes straight down in the opposite direction, similar to how you would have a reflection of a tree in water, and it would sort of reflect and then come down. That's how it goes down. So I would guesstimate that this tree is roughly about 8 meters high, and it's, so let's say that's 8 yards roughly high, because it's about 3 foot to a meter, and I believe a yard is about 3 foot. And just to give you an example of how tall it is, I will run over there just now. Philip, you're asking, is this the undying tree that James talked about? Is that correct, Faith? I think that was your question, Philip. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced the question there. Philip, I would guess that this is that tree, but I actually didn't hear or see when James was discussing that. So that would be my guess. And yeah, I mean, this is a very, very long living tree, so with that thought process, I would guesstimate that that's it. Let me just give you an example of how tall it is. So I'm 5'9", so that's roughly 174 centimeters. So that's under 2 meters, and that's how tall it is. It's huge. It's absolutely ginormous. But they can get even taller, and they can get even bigger. I would guesstimate that this tree is only a couple of 100 years old. I don't think it's anywhere near the end of its growth rate. It definitely has some few years to get to where it needs to be. Alright, so we are in the Mulwati, and we're down here looking for cheeky little leopards in the shade, but we're also here looking for cuckoos, because cuckoos like to hide in thicker bushes, and I'm hoping to find some to show to you on the camera. Let's carry on our merry way. And see if we get lucky. Seb, will you look to our right? I don't want to drive past a leopard. That would make me sad. Alright, from a female to another, to Jamie, who is also driving around. Not in riverbeds like this. She's on the beautiful plains of the Mahara, and I'm sure she has some wonder that she wants to tell you all. Well, we'll search for cheeky little and sneaky little leopards.
So many things I'd love to tell you all. Well, most importantly, unfortunately, as you can see, the clock started ticking and it was time for us to leave the Four Musketeers. Hopefully they'll still be in the area and all together tomorrow, because I didn't achieve what I wanted to, which was just a screenshot of all 4 of them walking towards us. All 4 of them roaring would have been even better, but I was going with something I hoped might be realistic. But they weren't showing any signs of moving. I don't have a ranger on the back with me today because we've been out for 2 days. So I don't know if they'll be able to move. But I will keep you posted. But for now, I'm going to head back to the Four Musketeers. Well, we've been out since 6:30, so 12 hours. It's quite a long time for a ranger to be out with us. We do those sorts of times overnight, but during the day it's a long time for them to be cramped up in the back of the vehicle. So I don't have a ranger with me, which means I have to race back for gate closing time at 6:30. I feel like we've accomplished a lot, Manu. We found the leopard. We found that leopard 30 seconds to the end of the sunrise safari. I even tried to ask Kirsty for a link, but we were just too late. Just. Oh, waterbuck. Pretty waterbuck. Just have to show you because it looks so pretty and clean. There's been lots of rain here. We missed it entirely. Do not ask me how. But a quick, brief look at a very pretty waterbuck. And since it has a heart-shaped nose, pea heart, no, I did not identify the mystery creature from yesterday. I honestly, I have no idea. I really don't. If Craig hadn't seen it, I would really have started to question my own sanity at this point, because now it's almost a blur and a flash of a memory. It was such a brief period of time that we saw it. And if this waterbuck knows what it was, well, he ain't telling. Tafasa waterbuck, very, very pretty animals, I feel. Stark white facial markings. And of course, when he turns around, if he turns around, which I don't think he's going to do. Oh, there we go. Instead of the white ring around the bottom like the South African waterbuck, just a solid white bottom. There we go, Dan. You wanted to know if they're found in South Africa. Different type of waterbuck, but yes, they are. So the waterbuck in South Africa have a white ring, and hopefully Noelle or Ralph can find you one. Whereas the waterbuck here have the white bottoms. I'm just going to move out of the way of this vehicle because I imagine they're in about as much a hurry as I am. Never mind, they found no way around. Sawa. Mzuri sana. Habari? Pardon? Manu. Sawa. Bye-bye. Thanks, Manu. Manu's in the back going, we're live. And our waterbuck ran away. That's okay. So yes, it is... You do get waterbuck in South Africa, and as I said, they look slightly different. The ones here have also got a much more red-brown tone to their coat, I feel, than the South African waterbuck, which are grey. Okay, foot flat again. I'm trying to think, I'm trying to give an honest answer to Fred about the largest herd of antelope I've ever seen. I beg silly. I know the answer to that. Fred, the largest herd I have ever seen of an antelope was over 100,000 wildebeest as part of the Great Migration a few months ago. Wildebeest is an antelope, it counts. So that is the largest herd I've actually probably seen, that was a conservative estimate, I've probably seen over 200 or 300,000 wildebeest together on certain days, all together in one herd. So the Great Migration consists of over 1 million wildebeest that move from Tanzania into Kenya. But they don't all move as one body of animals. You get large herds, you get smaller herds, you get scattered herds that move at different times. But essentially, during that whole process, over 1 million wildebeest, a couple of 100,000 zebra, a couple of, not so much this year, 100,000 Thompson's gazelles and some eland as well, take part in the Great Migration. can't believe it even took me that long to vaguely think of that. Now, I'll tell you something, our sunset from this angle is nothing really to write home about, in as much as the sunset in Africa can never be boring, but apparently Brent's is even lovelier.
There we go, magnificence that like only the Mara can produce, with that sun and the cloud, and also a lot of wildebeest. There we go, there's the sun. Isn't that gorgeous? We can hear in the distance, we can just hear the canoeing of canoes. You can hear the wind buffeting through, just coming out below that cloud. Very, very special. Roassa would like to know, do I prefer sunrises or sunsets? Well, Roassa, I am partial to each equally. I like both, and it is. Oh, I can't actually choose between a sunrise and a sunset. Each have their own special things. Now, as I said, we're sitting here on the eastern side of the Mosiara Marsh, and I said the loiter herd of wildebeest stretch, and we can only see probably a third of what's actually here at the moment. And as we move further and further to the left, you just see they keep going and they keep going. Now, there is a possibility they might stay in the Mara this year. So I might be spending quite a lot of time around here. They were mostly around Talek a few weeks ago, but it looks like the lovely green grass that has sprouted after the rain in this area has brought them down towards Mosiara, as well as a lot of zebra. And there's a herd up on top of that ridge that is almost thick with wildebeest. And just see how many there are. Keek is wondering, when does the next big migration happen? Keek, the migration is constantly happening. It is currently there's about 250,000 wildebeest in the loiter herd, which is the herds that we're still seeing at the moment. The main body of wildebeest is the Serengeti migration. Are those lions? Sorry. Or was that my eyes playing tricks on me and it's just a zebra and golden light? No, it's a zebra. Sorry, I thought I saw a lion there for a second. No, it's a zebra. Oh dear, I got quite excited. But that is still quite beautiful. It was coming out of a hole, so it looked a little bit lower than it was. But, so the main migration is now currently somewhere in Tanzania, making its way towards the southern plains around Ndutu, where they will give birth in about February and then start the long trek back up to Kenya. And they should arrive in July at the earliest. June or end of June, July. Isn't that gorgeous? Okay, well, we're going to start trundling home because home is all the way on top of that escarpment, and we've probably still about an hour and a half to 2 hours away from camp. And the wind is coming. It looks like we're lucky. The rain is going to miss us this time. Seems like you guys have got some great screenshots of that beautiful sunset. And it's going to be interesting to see how everything changes over the next few months, whether the loiters are going to hang around or they're going to loiter their way across to the loiter hills. But while we ponder that, let's go look at the sunset Jamie's looking at.
we have a lovely sunset to show you as the wind howls away, bringing in, I think, more rain for the evening, which is good. It was getting a little bit dusty out here. And Manu's actually made it look nice. Look nice. Of course it looks nice, but he's made it look really stunning. So, big thumbs up to Manu for doing full justice to a sunset that I can't believe, how terribly rude of me. I can't believe I said it was nothing to write home about. And shocking, Jamie. Always should take time to look at the sunset. Brr. Chilly. Very beautiful. Now, unfortunately, in this world full of care, as much as I would love to stop and stare, we have no time. I'm sorry, Manu. It was beautiful. We had the opportunity. What do you think, everyone? Was Manu's sunset better than Jahawi's sunset? Not that you can... not that that's really a fair comparison, given that they have what they have to work with. Okay, we're gonna go racing up the hill. We're running out of time rapidly. Let's send you across to our team in South Africa where Noelle is driving about.
If you go straight in. Hi everybody, so just as we came up, I saw this little bee eater and he's caught something in his mouth and he's busy killing it. I'm just trying to direct Seb in, so Seb, if we go straight over my shoulder, straight to that scraggly little bush, about 10 meters in, up a bit, go up, here, it's in here, there he is. Thanks, Seb. Oh, it didn't catch something. Oh, well, sorry everybody, that wasn't very private. that was a little mating pair of little bee eaters. That's what happens when I don't use my binoculars. But now, Seb, if you go sort of here-ish, they should be right around in there. I think maybe a little bit closer. Sorry, let's just zoom out a little bit. There we go. Perfect. There's our little bee eater. Thank you, Sebastian. Oh, beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. Yellow under the chin there. Bright yellow. Green. And he's teeny tiny with a tiny little forked tail. And by teeny tiny, I mean, what is this in inches? 5 inches? Seb says, I don't know, let's say 5 inches, and he's just gone back to his other branch. So, and there's another one that's landed in the next spot. So Daryl, you're curious about where the ears are on that bird. So Daryl, when it turns its head a little bit, can you see where that black stripe goes? So towards the end of that black stripe that goes through the eye, the ear openings will be right around in there, as far as I know. I could be wrong.
Keeps on flying, coming back.
Yeah, Seb's saying keeps flying, coming back. That's called hawking. Flying up, trying to catch something, and then coming back. This is one of my favorite bee eaters. My all-time favorite bee eater is a swallow-tailed bee eater, which I have not seen yet this season. And all of my travels across southern Africa, I have yet to pick it up for this year. I have seen it before, just not this year. But this little bee eater, he is with us all year round. He's in southern Africa pretty much all year round and always puts on a good show. The show we had a little bit earlier might be a bit too much, but this is live. We are interactive. We can't script any of this. It just happens as it happens. And basically what he's doing, especially as it's cooled down a little bit, he's flying off, trying to catch something, and then flying back. There's the mate down there, and you see that he comes right back. Not always to the exact same branch, but for now this is their little hunting perch that they are enjoying. Bit of preening there, making sure that the feathers are all in the right places. So they'll be hunting things like bees and wasps and dragonflies and butterflies in particular, sort of flying insect. Paula, you're asking what bird I most often see in the bush. Paula, it depends on the time of year. It depends on the habitat. Each bird has its own special niche. Currently, in the past few days, the birds I've been seeing the most have been that Wahlberg's eagle pair that we keep bumping into, and the Woodland Kingfisher, and crested francolin and helmeted guinea fowl. Those are the most that I've been seeing, but it just happens to be the areas that I'm going to, and they're there. Oh, and Egyptian geese. I've seen so many Egyptian geese. But yeah, it really depends. So something that we might have here. Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Seb.
I gave it to the other one, I think. No?
I don't know. I didn't catch it. Let's keep with them and see what they do. We might get some good. So when they do catch something, they come back, and especially if it's larger, they'll come and smack it on that branch and kill it and then swallow it. I once watched a little bee eater catch a rather large dragonfly, and that dragonfly came and killed it on the branch, and then he starts to swallow it, but then it's so big compared to his body that he gets it sort of down the mouth, but then half of it's still sticking out, and he was just sitting there like this. Trying to figure out, well, what does he do? Does he spit it back up, or does he? Sorry, it was absolutely hysterical. Are they still hunting there, Seb? A little bit. I've got some butterflies over here for you guys. Oh my goodness. So I don't know if I'll be able to show you. Seb, can you see this gorgeous butterfly? Can I move myself? I'm moving myself. Now I don't know which butterfly this is, but look at those stunning colors. Orange and yellows and reds. Actually, sorry, it's gone. Did you find it?
It's gone again.
Oh, it's gone again. So the orange that was on there, that bright sort of almost red orange, and then the yellow, and then the black, usually those colorations mean that it's highly toxic. So it's known as aposematic coloration, so it's warning. So anything that is black and red, or black and yellow, or black and white, or black and orange is usually meant for saying, don't eat me, I'm toxic. And then you even get some insects that will mimic colorations like that, or mimic the type of patterns on the wings to sort of get predators to not want to choose them because they look so much like the other one. So you'll see that with sorry, the name just you get it with monarch butterflies and the diadems. They're the two that do that often. Yeah. Nikki, you're right. At last, a butterfly. I know that Tristan was trying super hard to find butterflies the other day. Well, today has been super warm. We've also been passing some of the white berry bushes. They're flowering, and then there's been some different plants that I can see have some leaves out that usually attract a lot of the butterflies to lay their eggs on, especially butterflies with aposematic coloration, so that they have a little bit of toxins in those plants, and then they lay their eggs, and then their larvae will feed on those plants and then become toxic themselves as they carry on through life. I'll see if I can find a few. I did a really amazing butterfly course last year, and some of these eggs for the butterflies are like the size of a pin. Sometimes you need a microscope to see them, and each species has certain plants that it likes to use or certain trees that it likes to use, and so I'm going to go through my notes on that, and then hopefully over the next few days with this gorgeous weather that we have, we'll be able to pick up a little bit more. And our cameras are so amazing. I'm hoping if we can find big enough eggs that we might be able to get some on camera. That would be absolutely fantastic. Now, have our bee eaters, they're still just sitting there. Well, one's cleaning its beak. There we are. There they are. So one was there, it cleans its beak there. So it might have caught something in the interim while we were busy. Paula, you're wondering if I have a favorite place in Djuma yet. Paula, I don't have a specific favorite place at the moment. Every day I go out and I have a place that I feel like going to. I really enjoy Chitwa Dam. I enjoy Treehouse Dam. I enjoy, this is going to be another dam, I enjoy twin dams. But yeah, I haven't found an absolute favorite place. I pretty much like everything. I really, you know what, Twala, I'm going to go with today. My favorite place has been the Mawati because it's been so cool. Because underneath that sun that we were driving on, there's lots of water that's underneath there. And so it cools everything down. Also, the big trees giving shade. So that's my favorite place for today. All right, everybody, I know we love to do screenshots every day. I think while we're busy with these bee eaters, I think, especially if they turn their heads either opposite directions or in a similar direction, the light catches it nicely. This would be my choice for screenshot for the day thus far. I think I would wait for them each to be looking opposite directions as their bodies are entwined a little bit like that. Daniel, you're asking if we ever just break into songs from The Lion King. So, Daniel, a very dear friend of mine sent me a link, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, from Jimmy Fallon. And there was this whole skit that they did about misheard songs. And I do this in my head often. So, in the beginning of The Lion King, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher it. They go, ah, Sabanya, and then they carry on. And in this skit, a woman was convinced that they were singing Pennsylvania as the opening line, and I do play that little bit in my head often and laugh like this. I'm sorry. It's probably the funniest thing that I've heard in a really long time. Yeah, and then I'm sorry. And then the Hakuna Matata song sometimes comes up because Hakuna Matata is a phrase that comes out of Swahili, but we also use the word matata down here, so it does pop up from time to time. That other one I was telling you about. Look, I'm crying. Sorry. All right. So, goodbye, bee eaters. Let's carry on. You're going to give me the giggle. I have the giggle fits now because I'm just going to think of that for the rest of the cave drive. All right. So, I have still been unsuccessful in showing you a cuckoo on camera. I'm still convinced we're going to do it. I also, sadly, we had the wild dogs on the property, but we had gremlins. We had gremlins around the wild dogs, so we couldn't show them. And then I haven't heard much about the cheetah tracks we were talking about. I do want to check on the cheetah tracks for now. And see if maybe they've crossed over into our area, because wild dogs and cheetah is something I have not been able to show you on camera yet, and it's part of my list along with honey badger, aardvark. Ooh, we had a long list. Honey badger, aardvark, buffalo. We've been asking for the buffalo for quite a while. We've got a long list going. All right, Ralph has a tiny little mammal he would like to share with you, so let's head on over to him. I keep laughing at that.
Okay, folks, yeah, as we've been driving along, we've been seeing a whole lot of squirrels running on the road, and this one we just thought we'd stop and have a look at him. He's got a little hole there, and it seems it's been quite hot today, so it looks like he's just relaxing a little bit in the shade, but next to possibly a little nest there that he's taken on. And this tree that he's in looks like a knobthorn, and that's one of the biggest of the leaflets that you get of all the trees with the very similar leaves in this grouping of trees. But have a look at that little tree squirrel. Now, we only get these tree squirrels in this low-veld area, and then the red squirrel, but they're very rare. And we also use these little animals as our indicators for when there's snakes or any of the bigger birds of prey, when they make those alarm calls. And I was doing it yesterday as we were driving along. I was also doing the alarm call. I won't do it just today, otherwise I'll kill the whole effect of it. But something else I'd like to point out to you, just on the right here, if Ian would go over to that, and you see this lovely tree that is here, riverbeds as well. Lovely white trunk, and this is called the leadwood tree. It's very, very hard wood, extremely hard wood. That's why they call it a lead wood. And if Liam just stops there and goes up a little bit up to the right and a little bit out, you can see this branch that is dead. I'm just going to show you a little bit. That is a sacrificial branch, and what these trees do is they pump all their toxins into a branch like that. They call it a sacrificial branch. So any of the excess nutrients that they have in the soil, they'll then pump into those branches, and obviously then they sacrifice that one branch, and saving the rest of the tree. Now I'm just going to continue driving, and as we drive along, I'm just going to tell you a little bit. You know, I spent a lot of time in Namibia, and up in the northwestern part of Namibia you have the semi-nomadic people and the Himba people, but an offshoot of those Himba people that still move around, almost similar to that of the Khoisan. They have a derivative of the Himbas called the Herero people, and the Latin name of that tree, the leadwood, is Acacia hereroense. Now the reason for that being is because the Herero people of the northwestern part of Namibia hold this tree in very high stead. They have a village, and the chief, see that they put there, have a wall on the outside of the village. They make a fence around it, and all the little houses, the little huts, are dotted around in a circle with then the kraal in the middle. Of that particular village, he will have his door, which is always open, and just outside his door, between the kraal and his house, he will have a fire where they will burn this leadwood. Now, losing signal a little bit, so I'm losing my story here. If we get it back, I will continue. Okay, folks, we're just going to link to Noelle. When we come back, I'll finish my story about the Hereros, the leadwood tree. So off to Noelle for now.
Hello, I have somewhat gotten over my giggle fit. No, it's still there. I'm sorry. Really sorry, everybody. Okay, well, apparently we're on a tree expedition this afternoon. I hear Ralph has also started telling you about a leadwood tree. So I'm going to stop at this tree here and see if you all can guess what tree it is. Don't forget, we are live, we are interactive, and we love your questions. Hashtag Safari Live on the Twitter and on the YouTube chat. What tree am I? And there's no I Spy with a tree Angama today, I promise you guys. I won't do that to you again. Notice the textures on the bark. Notice the discoloration on the bark. Notice as Seb pans up, you're going to see how very straight it is, and then as you get up towards the branches, they're going to veer off at almost a 90-degree angle, and it's going to be a lovely little spot that a leopard might like. Very beautiful, bright green crown. And then I don't know, Seb, are we close enough to zoom in on the leaves, do you think? Thanks everybody for loving my giggle. Apparently as well, my voice is slightly distorted today and is deeper than normal, the way you guys are hearing it. So we're just gonna call it my man laugh. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we can notice these leaves. At the tips of the branches you can see, and then they're sort of coming off on the side. Just at the top there, I'm not seeing any fruits on this tree. Those fruits would be a giveaway, but this tree does have sexual dimorphism. You get male trees and female trees. I think Steph would disagree with me on that. I think we were having a chat the other day about whether or not there is sexual dimorphism or it's just different trees, and it was something interesting that I've been contemplating. So sometimes when I chat with you about different aspects of different organisms that we see out here, it's book learned, and sometimes it's learned from my own experience, and sometimes sometimes it's learned from other guides. And Steph's been in the industry a lot longer than I have, and so some of his contemplative moments I've found very interesting, and I've been sort of thinking about them a little bit, and that sexual dimorphism with trees has been one of them. I haven't decided what my decision is, but I am interested. Wendy says this is a leopard tree. Wendy, it is a tree that I also believe a leopard would like, although every time I pick one of these trees, Seb's showing the branch that he pictures the leopard on now, I would pick this tree and then the leopard's going to pick the silly little scraggly tree behind it. But no, this is in fact a marula tree. So the marula tree. Eric the poet, you guessed the marula. Well done. You win my smile. That's all I can give you. I unfortunately can't give you anything else. All right, marula trees. I know we talk about them a lot. They're a very fascinating tree, especially culturally. They use the bark from the male tree and the bark from the female tree. I've told the story once before, but I really love this story. I have a tracker that I used to work with who has many cows. I think he was up to about 30 cows at one point, and he always loved talking about this tree with guests because he loved talking about how when he found a male tree of this or a female tree, which bark he would choose to give to his cows, and they would make a drink out of it because that would depend on what type of baby they would have, a male baby or a female baby. And so it's very important for his breeding, and for him it's worked. That's why he has 30 cows, and I always find that interesting. It's also very interesting for me because a lot of my favorite things that I like to consume come from this tree. So marula juice is really, really, really good. It's also high in vitamin C, and then you can get marula jam, which is also delicious. And then there's a few alcoholic beverages that they make from it. One's a cream liqueur that's very similar to some of the cream liqueurs you would find overseas. And then another is very similar to moonshine. I would recommend that you don't drink that. That's not going to end very well. But yeah, it's a very, very useful tree. And it's also just pretty. And we've got a beautiful blue, blue, blue sky without a single cloud in the sky. And those vibrant brand new leaves that are popping with the green color are just pleasing to the eye. Sadly, the only thing that's wrong with this tree right now is that there's not our cheeky little leopard inside of it. But hopefully we will fix that as we carry on down the way. The question, I believe, is how can you tell if the tree is male or female? And then I'm so sorry I didn't catch the viewer's name. Sweet History, you're asking how can you tell if the tree is male or female? Sweet History, with this marula tree, the only way I know how to tell is whether it has fruits or not. If it has fruits, it should be a female. If it doesn't have fruits, it should be a male. If we're going by the book logic of it. And that's the only way to tell. So it is fruiting season at the moment. They're just starting to come up. And this tree does not have fruits. But now I'm going to pull back a little bit from my answer there and just say sometimes when we have bad rainy seasons, we don't get any fruits at all. So you wouldn't be able to tell. And then sometimes when we have really good rainy seasons, trees will fruit multiple times. So we have seen some of the marula trees with fruits on them already, but we haven't quite had enough rain as we would like. So it would be interesting to see if maybe some of the trees that have better access to groundwater and more nutritious soil would be fruiting already, and ones that don't might not be fruiting already, just as a thought to ponder. Okay, and away we go. Down our beautiful dusty highway in the middle of the bush, and we will see if we get lucky enough to have a leopard pop up in our marula trees. That's also something I forgot to mention, is when you start finding marulas, you usually find the next marula anywhere from sort of right next to it to up to about 400 meters. So again, a meter is very similar to a yard. We can work that out. And they're positioned like that. It helps with the cross-pollination when they're flowering, because if we go along with the idea that you get a male tree and a female tree, you need that cross-pollination between the two for everything to function and for the female trees to finally bear fruits. Oh, this light, we're starting to come into the really gorgeous golden hour. I don't know if anyone was watching last night with the sunset that we had with the Battler Eagles. I keep picturing it in my head, and it was just absolutely stunning. So we don't have any clouds, so our sunset tonight is going to be completely different from our sunset last night. We're still going to get beautiful colors, but it's not going to reflect in the way that it did last night, and we're not going to get, say, as vibrant a stream, as many different colors as we had, but it will still be gorgeous nonetheless. All right. Sorry, car, I am listening to you, but I'm not paying attention. You could hear poor Wendy was whining away. Please shift my gears. Here's an interesting marula tree. So this marula tree that's just on our left-hand side, its growth has been completely stunted by elephants. So it's been, well, I'm saying elephants, but it's been broken off at the top, just in there, and then the root system hasn't died, so it's just sort of kept growing off to the sides and coming up a little bit. So it'll either form a huge sort of scar, what's like a scar tissue there, and then keep growing up, or it's just going to look like this funny little stunted dwarf marula tree and sort of spread out to the sides there. The reason why I'm thinking elephants is just because it's quite a thin marula tree. It's not extremely old, and possibly a big male elephant, although it could have been horrible wind as well. But my gut feeling is saying elephant, so we'll stick with the gut. It is definitely a tree afternoon. I think we might have to find some other trees along our way as well. We had some beautiful torchwoods, but we have bypassed them. I'm sorry, I got really interested in this dwarf marula here. But down the way, I do know we have some other ones to chat about, so let's carry on and do that. I'm also excited because we had our big first rains that the flowers are going to start popping up soon. Sorry, Lisa Marie, you're asking what the different names for the prides are? Oh, who names them? So, who names all the animals? So, Lisa Marie, I am still new to this area. So the other places that I've worked in, the coalitions of male lions, the prides of lions, every single leopard, coalition of male cheetah, they get named for research purposes. And then here on the Sabi Sands, again, there's a similar vibe. You want to know who's mating with who, but I do know that with some of our other, like the Birmingham boys, for instance, have been given individual names, and I'm pretty sure, Chris, you can tell me if that's from us, from our side, from Safari Live. So in general, on a reserve that you work at, it will be management of the reserve and or the first guide to find the youngsters that will put out any names. And in general, you're not naming individuals, you're naming coalitions of males and prides as one name. So for instance, we've got the Nkuhumas, that's the name of the pride, and the Birmingham boys are the boys, and the Styx Pride is the pride name. Other than that, the individual things, when you're dealing with sort of characters like we are, helps us to tell our stories that we tell. And also, I mean, everybody watches them for so long, it feels like part of the family. So the Djuma guides have given the Birmingham boys their individual names. Interesting question. Sorry, I've got, from my laughing fit, I think I've got something in my eye. I'm trying not to get myself started again. Oh, the giggles, the giggles, the giggles. Alright, I'm not picking up any cheetah tracks, sadly. So Ralph's gremlins are not going away. They are sticking with him. I'm sort of heading up our eastern boundary here, and then we're going to head up to our northern boundary. I want to see if anything comes in from either side. If the cheetah were to come onto our property, it would be from from what they're telling me from the tracks on the other side, it would be from this boundary here. And then I've only noticed one set of male lion tracks coming back from Birmingham. Joy, as always, you are asking really interesting, very in-depth questions. So, Joy, your question, sorry, I have to stop to talk to you with this question because this question is a question that is not very briefly explained. It's something that's a little bit more in-depth. So, Joy, your question is, do we have an overpopulation of elephants in this area, or have the private game reserves in the greater Kruger area helped to alleviate the problem of elephant population numbers? So, Joy, in general, in the area we're in, so in the greater Kruger area, so you've got the Kruger National Park, and then on the western side you've got Timbavati, Klasiri, Bulule, Olifants, Sabi Sands, Kapama, Thorny Bush. I mean, there's a whole number of reserves that are private, sometimes singly owned, sometimes multiple owners on there throughout the western side. Some of them are fully open to the Kruger National Park, some are open to ones that are then open to Kruger Park, and some are still fenced off. But when we're talking elephant population numbers for this whole area, for the greater Kruger area, from what I've read and what I know, and this is a debate of contention because sort of, I would say 8 out of my 10 colleagues would say similar things to what I say, but then there's a couple who would say, now wait a minute, is that really true? So as far as I know, the general consensus is that the greater Kruger area has an overpopulation of elephants. And then there's been another side of research that's been done that said, hold on, wait a minute, no, our numbers are fine. And so, Joy, I do think that the add-on and the fence dropping between private game reserves who wanted to be just themselves to now opening up to the greater Kruger area, I do believe that has definitely helped. But I think in general, because within South Africa, there's only a small amount that is reserved for wilderness in such a large country. I mean, I think, so South Africa is the size of 2 Texases together and then a little bit more. And if I'm remembering correctly, and I could stand corrected on this, I believe it's only 1/16 of the country is in wilderness areas. So there's not actually a lot of space. So we're very blessed to have this huge area here to maneuver and have the wildlife maneuver in, but it's not necessarily enough space. And we, unfortunately, in South Africa have a huge population of humans. There's close to 65 million people in South Africa, and I'm also counting in undocumented people. And because of that, we have no way to allow huge amounts of free roaming people up, or free roaming wildlife up and down and up and down. Like they do in, say, Kenya, up in the Masai Mara, because our wildlife and our humans are abutted like this. And as you know, when it comes to human-wildlife conflict, it's the wildlife that usually ends up on the backside. So every reserve in South Africa has a fence at some point to help with the protection. Now, for us, everything east of us is open. So Sabi Sands open right into the Kruger, and sometimes in the Monuleni up top there, and then open into Mozambique for the most part. And then north of us is open from game reserve to game reserve to game reserve to game reserve. So it's, long story short, it's us, and then Monuleti, and then Timbavati, and then Klasiri, and then Olifants and Bulule, and then it cuts back into Kruger, and then when you get to the northern end of Kruger, it's open up into Zimbabwe, that side. So we have a lot of free movement, and then everything sort of west of us is up until sort of the tar road. Oh no, actually no, sorry, I'm a little bit farther south, working a little bit farther south than I'm used to, up until where the communities live is open, and then we've got a secure fence to keep the community safe from anything that might want to wander around there. So that was super long-winded, and I hope of elephants, there has been some settling down of that, but yeah, in general. So Joy, if you've got more questions about what I said, please send them through. We can keep carrying this on. As you know, I love conservation, and I love the aspects of conservation and sharing that with you. I do think it's something that's super important. But that being said, we've had our conservation moment for the afternoon. I think let's get back to the very serious business of safari, because as you know from my multiple bouts of laughter, it's so serious. Okay. And with Ralph's gremlins still popping up, you are stuck with me. I am happy to be stuck with you, so I hope you're happy to be stuck with me. Sorry, Chris, go again? I'm so sorry, I'm having a really hard time. I've got you now, thanks Seb. Seb is just relaying that message, thank you so much Seb, that Joy, you're saying it was like you and I were on a Skype call and you're nodding your head. Yeah, that's good, I like that. I enjoy all of your questions, but it's also, Joy, I really like that question in particular this afternoon because it is a topic that is so in depth, and I don't always know how much is relayed over to other continents. It seems as if Ralph's gremlins have disappeared for now, so let's head over to him before they pop back up and see if he can finish his story for us.
Okay folks, we've just picked up on a nice big male leopard's track, so we are doing that, that process of elimination. We had his track for quite a long time. We then saw that he veered off the road, but it seemed like he was maybe going in this direction, coming back again, so we hold out in hope that we can maybe pick up on him again. It seemed like quite a big male, so yeah, it seems like quite positive that we might pick up on something. But while we're looking for him and while we continue on that trail looking for the leopard, I just wanted to finish that Edward story. So, as I was saying, the Herero people of Namibia, they hold that leadwood in very high esteem. The chief, with the fence around his whole village, the chief has his house facing the kraal where they keep the cattle, which is also held in very high esteem. But between his house and the kraal, and they make the fire. We might be going for a little bit of low signals. So I'm just going to slowly just get out of this little hole here. Okay, sorry about that. So his house with his door open, always open to the kraal with the cattle, and he makes his fire in between. Now the fire is where they actually talk with the ancestors. So they never let that fire go out. The chief has his door open towards the ancestors, and using the lead wood, that fire will never go out because they always put on a little bit of wood each day and that fire continuously burns. If there is a problem with the village or somebody is sick, the chief will always go to the fire and talk to the ancestors and ask for advice or ask for help or whatever the case might be. But the fire is the connection with the ancestors. So that is why that tree has been called after the Herero people in Namibia. It's interesting. And I see as we go along here, a little bit of elephant tracks. So everything's going to happen. We've got the leopard tracks, elephant tracks. It's lovely being on safari out in the Kruger National Park of South Africa. We never know what's going to happen. Okay, it seems like the signal is going down a little bit again. We're going to continue trying to find this leopard, maybe even some elephant, but let's link back to Noelle until I get better signal.
Hello, I'm so sorry that Ralph is having gremlin after gremlin after gremlin. Ralph, I know what it feels like, but I am very happy to chat with everybody. I have found something very small I want to show you. And it involves a lot of creepy crawlies. We've got a communal spider's nest here. So inside of this nest will be hundreds of spiders, and then the outside webbing helps collect, or catch rather, their prey, and then they come out and they feed on it, and then go back in and live inside there. So they take these bits of leaves and that are at the end of these branches, and on this branch, and make their nest in. I'm trying to remember or think, has anyone seen the movie Aliens? Because for some reason this reminds me of that movie. I saw one today. I had to go into town very quickly this morning just to ship some things off to our head office, and I saw one on my way coming home that had to have been about 4 times this size. So this one is about the size of a plum, or roughly the size of a plum. And the one that I saw today was probably about the size of 2 rugby balls / 2 American footballs stuck together. It was really, really, really huge. So one of the reasons why I'm stopping and showing you this very interesting spider's web is because, 1, it's interesting, but then 2, from our vantage point, I'm hoping to get a little bit of our sunset. Seb, what do you think? Should we stick here, or do you think we should travel on down? Because we've got a couple minutes, but it's going to come soon. Should we try down a little bit lower?
Right now.
All right. Seb says, no, Noelle, you're very silly. It's too bright. Let's carry on. There is a spot just down the road where we keep picking up on zebra. So I think let's head down there and see if we can pick them up. So we are going to carry on with our mid-evening meander. I can hear a red-crested coron in the background. I'm not sure if everyone remembers the red-crested coron is that little bustard-type looking bird who makes his call, and he flies straight up in the air, and then he tucks his wings in and then falls to the ground, and just before he gets there he opens them again. All of it's to court ladies. Most of what the male species does out in the bush is to court the ladies. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we've got this beautiful green grass that's, you can just see it on the right-hand side here, that's sort of sprouted this bit of burning that they did. Now, usually this is where this would attract things like impala, things like impala, and birth, and cheetah, and leopard, but let's go with the cheetah. Seeing this afternoon are going to come and start hunting. Let's head over south, and I'll try and tell these gremlins to go away.
Okay, folks, we're having a little bit of trouble with the signal today. It seems like Noelle and I are both driving in regions where the signal is a little bit low. Let's just switch off here and just have a look. In front, we've got couple of impala, the little couple of the babies. There they go running off into the bush. But we've had a lot more babies being dropped in the last couple of days, and it's been absolutely fantastic to see all the little youngsters that are coming through now. There's another little one there, and they are ever so alert. And we were also just watching because we thought maybe they were, a little bit overly alert. So we were just seeing if maybe that leopard was in the area. But it seems like they were alert in the area that they're moving in. So we're not quite sure. Mommy's having a look down there in the riverbed. See that little tufts, the black tufts on the back of her ears? Makes it nice and easy for the little baby to be able to follow her. And obviously those black lines on the back of her bum, that also makes it very easy for the little baby to be able to follow. Now you also do realize we can't see, and yes, I do agree with all the viewers that those little babies are absolutely cute as can be. Another one coming through there. Sun's starting to go down slowly, and it does become a little bit scary for these little chaps now. They've got to fend for their lives. As soon as that sun goes down, the leopards obviously do move around looking for food. So mommy's got to be on the top of her game to be able to keep looking out for the little ones. But it always makes sense how these impala drop their calves all at a very similar time, and enabling, because a lot of them do get taken out by predators, but at the same time, with there being so many of them, there's always going to be a whole lot of them that do go through. The sun's starting to go down now, and we're just listening to the little birds calling in the area, and see that sun over there starting to dip down over the horizon with a silver cluster leaf just in front. Right, I think we're going to continue on a little bit. Jackie, how long will the impala babies suckle for? They will suckle for a couple of months, 1 or 2 months, but within that time they already do start feeding a little bit, so they do get weaned in that period. They don't suckle for very long at all. They're one of those animals that need to sort of be moving very fast and being weaned very quickly away from the mother. They need to be independent because of that obvious problem with the predators. They need to grow up as fast as possible. I'm just coming down over here towards the waterhole. Seems we've got a little bit of action, a little bit more animals. A question from Debbie: have I ever seen a live birth in the bush? And since we were watching impala there, yes, I have. It doesn't happen very quickly, and I'm just going to slow down here from a distance, and if VM can just have a look over there on the other side of the waterhole. So Debbie, to answer your question, yes, I have seen quite a few animals being born. I've seen impala being born, I've seen wildebeest being born, but my utmost and utter favorite would have been I saw a little baby desert elephant being born in the northwestern part of Namibia, and that for me is the highlight of my career, being a guide. Now here we've just got a little bit of a grouping of wildebeest that have come in, and they're all doing a little bit of grazing. Now, as you know, you guys have been crossing backwards and forwards between us in South Africa and the Kruger National Park and in the Masai Mara with them, with the migrations of the wildebeest and the zebra. Now, it's quite interesting to note. I'm sure you would have been told or you found out about it, but here's a question for you guys as well. Why would the wildebeest and zebra be moving in those migrations together? That's a very interesting question, and I'll give you a couple of minutes to think about it, and I'll tell you in a minute. But you can see that they are grazing in quite a specific sort of zone on the grass, and that's a little bit of a clue as to why the zebra and wildebeest move together. Now, the Latin name gnu comes from that the noise that they make, that sort of so it's quite indicative of the sound that they make. And there's a nice bull nyala moving with them. You often have the animals moving together quite simply because it's safety in numbers, but with the wildebeest and the zebra, there's something quite in particular that makes them move together, and it's more so the wildebeest that move with the zebra. Not so much the zebra that move with the wildebeest. So it's a little bit of a conundrum there, but it's kind of like the zebra, whether is he black with white stripes or white with black stripes. But in this case, with the wildebeest and the wildebeest do follow the zebra for a particular reason, and let's see if anybody knows why. In the meantime, I'm just going to move a little bit closer, and let's have a look a little bit closer to them. You can get a bit of a closer view while you guys think about that. The sun's still going down, starting to get into that predator time once again. And as you see, as we drive along here, you can see it's quite unusual how these branches have been packed along the road. You know, it's very eroded. So what the conservationists will do in the area, that has been packed here for to stop the erosion of this area. So they'll cut the bushes that do bush encroachment, and then they'll pack it in these eroded areas. So it's a bit of a dual purpose. Alden, where do wildebeest sleep? Well, it's quite a difficult one, being an antelope in the African plains. It almost seems like they never sleep. You will often see them lying down a little bit during the heat of the day, but it's more so that they're actually ruminating like cows do. They will sit down. They need to rest to fulfill the function of ruminating, you know, chewing the cud, regurgitating those cud balls, and then chewing it and swallowing it down a little bit again. But they don't generally actually go to sleep because of the predator problem. So if you're an antelope, it's quite a tiring work because you don't actually get to sleep. So if that answers your question, Alden, you don't particularly want to be an antelope because you're hardly ever going to sleep. You might rest a little bit, but if you close your eyes, you might be food. There comes some guinea fowl going through again. And you were talking about the Lion King a little bit earlier. They were quite prevalent there on the Lion King running through, also between the wildebeest in that lovely little kiddies movie. I love to call them the bush chickens because they literally are almost exactly like chickens that live in the wild. And they will also now time for them to start looking to go and roost. They don't stay on the ground. They will at this time of the evening start flying up into the trees and vying for their little roosting spots. You can see them. That is the helmeted guinea fowl. See that nice little red helmet on top of their heads. Fascinating birds, these. And also help us, like the squirrels, very often to, if they start alarm calling, they also indicate predators for us. So we use all the indicators when we're walking or driving in the bush. If we hear anything alarm calling and we can identify that it's a bird or a squirrel or another animal, mammal, alarm calling, and we want to follow up on that and find out why is it alarm calling. And generally they will alarm call for snakes or for big predators or for birds of prey, etc. So we have to be part of the bush. Because if we don't listen to those alarm calls, we can either walk into trouble or we won't be able to find the leopards that we've been looking for. So that was why a little bit earlier when we were driving along looking at those tracks of those leopard, we were listening out for alarm calls as well. Now here we see these wildebeest lying down. Wildebeest are prolific dust bathers. Right, we've got those answers exactly. So the answer to why zebra move, why wildebeest move with zebra, it is definitely because your zebra are bulk grazers and they will eat the top part of the grass, and the wildebeest, they're more selective grazers. They like to eat the bottom part of the green shoots more lower down to the ground. So the zebra literally go before the wildebeest and prepare the grass for the wildebeest. And you see how he's pushing his head onto the ground there. That's actually a territorial marking. What he's doing, he's got a gland there on his forehead and near to his eyes, and he wipes that on the ground, also scraping his feet, and you see now he's defecating as well. So that's a territorial bull that's marking his territory there. So he scratched it open to make it a nice fresh patch of earth, and then he wiped his head on it, wiping the gland and the scent on the floor, and then also defecating on it as well. So he's got a visual mark and he's also got a scent mark, and that is definitely a a territorial bull marking there. Now that's quite interesting as well. When do we call a bull and a cow, or a ram and an ewe? Generally the cutoff line is around 100 kilograms. So animals that are over 100 kilograms, we refer to them as cows and bulls, and anything below 100 kilograms we call ram and ewe. Now the nyala is the one that is stuck in the middle, which is then the male is a bull, but the female is a ewe, because the male is over 100 kilos, but the female is below 100 kilos, so she's a ewe, which is quite interesting. There's a kudu in the background. It's like a young male. Definitely a very young male, that. He's only starting to get to the first turn of his horns, so he's only a couple of years old. And as our sun goes down and the color starts to turn a beautiful array of blues and pinks and hues, I think we're going to go over to Noelle with the hyenas.
I'm super excited. So yes, I think maybe 3 weeks ago, one of my very first game drives, we came here and there was 2 youngsters, and I was saying that I had been told that there was 2 different litters. One was older than the other, and so we've got the older one that's here beautifully, but I'm just going to back, because I just saw them now. I didn't see them as we came in. I was too focused on this. We've got the other little ones right in front of us. I'm just going to back up a titch, so we'll be able to see nicely the difference between roughly 3 months. So I think someone said these guys were born sort of mid-July, so that's really, are you going to come play right there? So roughly 3 months old, and then that other one is looking to be about 6 months old. So you see how these ones are super furry. They still have a lot more black on the bottom part. Are you going to be nice to your sibling or mean to your sibling? What we're seeing right now is a little bit of dominant submissive behavior. The one on top sort of standing over, the one on the bottom lying down and putting its side and a little bit of its neck out. So I'm going to guess that the one on top is most likely the female. And then there's a little bit of love there. So a bit of dominance, and then the I still love you. Very interesting behavior. Hyenas are absolutely fantastic. Their intricate social systems, to me, are some of the most complex, and they are well documented, but I don't know how well understood they are. I mean, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into them. Are you chewing on the side of your sibling there? That's what it looked like to me. I mean, oohs and ahs and cute for sure, everybody. I agree with that 100%. We're going to miss the sunset tonight, but that's fine. This cuteness is well worth it. Are you now biting your sibling? Look at that. Yeah, that one's like, nope, that's too much. Too much for me. So they have, a lot of people assume wrongly that hyenas are hermaphrodites. They're not actually hermaphrodites. The female's genitalia is just elongated to simulate a penis, but it is they're not. There's males and there's females. I'm sorry that the side of the car is in the shot. They are moving closer to us. I don't want to start the engine and scare them away. I want them to, because we've given them space, they're then now welcome to move into our space. So just so you guys are aware, everything is fine, no worries. So they do this really elaborate greeting. Now remember, hyenas are matriarchal. It's the females that run the whole system, and males are kicked away. The ones that are related are kicked away, and then go off and mate with other females, and they're not allowed near den sites or anything like that. So when they're greeting each other, when they're little like this, or let's say when the adult comes back, they do this elaborate sort of squealing, giggling noise, and then they'll lift their legs and they'll touch the genitals and rub on the genitals, and that's all done within the hierarchy in certain sequence, as well as with the adults in a certain sequence, as well as with the younger ones done as well. And you'll notice that the youngsters, especially the female cubs of the matriarch the leader of the hyenas, will be given some sort of deference when she is greeting elders and elders are greeting her. It's an interesting concept. So we've just looked at those little ones here. Let's go back to the older one, and I want to know if you all can tell the difference just from looking at them between the two. Can you see how much larger this is? Angela, you're wondering, I'm assuming you mean the little ones that were close to our vehicle. What's wrong with them? Angela, don't worry. He's little, he's scruffy, he's been picked on by his older sister there, so that's probably why the fur is looking like that, but I don't think you should worry too much. Remember, when they're little, they do get quite a lot of, sorry, they are sniffing our tires on the left-hand side and trying to bite them, and so Seb's just saying, hey, that's not allowed, you must move off. So excuse us for that sound that you heard in the background. Remember, we have a personal bubble and they have a personal bubble. We don't intrude on their personal bubble, but they also mustn't intrude on ours. And when they're young like this, they need to learn the rules. This one's already learned the rules. The two younger ones haven't quite yet. So, Angela, don't worry too much about how they looked. They are healthy, but you will sometimes see that the one that's not the dominant, the one that's more of a submissive amongst that sibling pair that we saw, might be a little bit scrawnier than the other one. But it's not because he's malnourished. It's not because of any other reason than the fact that he's most likely a male. They are getting bigger. Males are much smaller than the females, and the females are going to grow a little bit quicker than the males. But to me, I'm not noticing anything that would be cause for concern. But then we also have to remember as well that not everything can live the full lifespan that is set out. Every now and then something happens in nature that means that that particular individual is not meant to be, whether it happens to be sickness or predation or whatever comes their way. So for now, these two are fine, but to keep in mind, there's a nice little stretch from the older one. Can you look? I know they're not side by side. I'm hoping they get side by side so that we can see. But I mean, look how much longer those legs are. Look how much thicker. Monique, I have a feeling that there would be two different mums with these two different litters. I have a feeling that they're around, but they're probably just taking a break for now. They usually will come around this time in the evening and nurse and then go off and leave these ones be. Are you now also going to come play by our tire? Hyenas, I love hyenas. They've got no scum in coming close to us. They don't fear us overly much. I mean, the parents, the mums from these ones come over to our areas often, into our kitchen, and sort of smell. So they've got no problem. They can hear me talking. They can see the movement from Seb with the camera. Hello, buddy. Now, I'm hoping they just move a little bit away. Seb, are the two little ones?
So one is lying down right in front of that old one, and then the other one is in front of the bonnet. I'm not sure where exactly, but...
Okay, well, I'm not gonna...
He's here by your right.
Hello! He's smelling... I must have driven over something. He's smelling... When I say he, it could be she. I can't tell from here. He's smelling the front of the car. What are you smelling? Courtney, you're asking at what age will the young hyena leave the den site for good? Courtney, I've seen the mums take away the little ones anywhere from 6 to 9 months, usually closer to 9 months, but when you have multiple litters like this that have a few months in between, it usually goes a little bit farther for the older ones because they're waiting for the younger litters to catch up and then moving off. So yeah, let's say roughly around 9 months. But also, I mean, I have seen variations with a little bit earlier, like I said, and now that I'm speaking out loud about it, I've actually seen variations with some of the older ones as well.
Smelling your head.
Is he smelling my...
It looked like it was smelling your head.
Really? Seb is saying that it looked like this one here was smelling my hat. That's hysterical. Oh, we've had good laughs today. So this older one's very disinterested in the younger ones. He came to... I say he, could be a she, as she came over to investigate a little bit. Also probably to have a look just to make sure that whatever they're doing to the front end of my vehicle is not hurting them in any way, and then now she's decided that she's had enough of these silly youngsters. She's going to go back to her resting. I've had many guests over the years, especially when we get young hyenas like this, who comment on how cute their faces are. And a lot of my guests from North America, when they comment on it, say that it almost reminds them of a bear, the way that the ears look and the way that the face looks. It reminds them of a little bear. Scarlett, you're curious to know how much time do they spend without their mother. They will spend sometimes up to about 2 or 3 days without the mum. It depends on if the mum has been able to get anything to eat. In general, something that I've noticed over my time as a guide is that lion and leopard have to spend longer away sometimes than spotted hyena. From their young, because sometimes it's harder for them to get the nourishment that they need. They have to travel farther, whereas a hyena has a much more varied diet and so has the opportunity to spend less away. But yeah, about 2 or 3 days. So while we're busy here with our uber cuteness, Ralph would like to say hello, so let's go over to him. We'll stay put and hopefully get a few more shots before we have to end our show.
Okay folks, we just returned from your hyena there, and we've just got ourselves a nice big bull giraffe who's just stopped to feed. He was walking up the road at quite a pace. I wondered where he was off to. Maybe he was on his way to some water, but then just all of a sudden decided that he would turn off to the left and come and have a quick feed before he possibly moves on. He's got a lovely dark colour to him, and those males, as they do get a little bit older, they do get those nice dark hues of brown. It almost sort of turns a little bit black eventually, and he's a very good looking male, that. And as the sun starts going down in the background, we keep following on all these animals, all these antelope. You see there, look at what is he going to try and feed on there now. And off he goes into the distance. He's getting behind those thickets there. I'm going to try and move a little bit forward so that we get a little bit of a better view, because it looks like he's starting to feed now. So he was on the move, but now it looks like he's sort of decided to start feeding a little bit more. So let's see. Looks like he's feeding on an apple leaf. Let's just pull in here. Don't want to disturb him. We do want to just come in. Sorry, buddy. Like he's feeding on a little bit of a mixed bag. He was on the apple leaf. Now it looks like he's feeding on a little bit of a red bush willow. See that black tongue coming out? Lady from Jersey, Jersey lady, loves seeing giraffes, so do I. Look at that long black tongue coming out. That tongue is extremely long, and it does help them to feed on the branches. It's got extremely thick skin, but it's also black, got a lot of melanin in it, because they do spend a lot of the time out of the mouth and in the hot African sun. So if it wasn't black with that high levels of melanin, they would literally get sunburnt on the tongue. It would be quite painful. So that's the adaptation for giraffe not getting sunburnt on their tongue. Nice silhouette, that. So lady from Jersey, I definitely agree with you. Giraffe, one of my favorite animals as well. I'm going to move forward slightly a little bit again. Seems like we've lost view of him, but I think we can pick up on him again. Ellie asking if giraffe have territories. Giraffe do not maintain territories at all. They, we say that giraffe, in terms of their group dynamics, they have loose associations. So giraffe don't maintain a territory, they don't mark territories, they don't chase other males out of a territory. They move and groove wherever they want. And a male like this, he wouldn't be chasing any other males away. He would obviously only fight with other males around females. So while we carry on sitting here with this giraffe, we'll see what he gets up to. But I think Noelle is still with the hyena, and why don't you cross to her?
So we've been watching these two younger ones and keeping an eye, and they are, you can actually see the size difference between the two. The one on the left or towards the back, to me, definitely looks like a female, and the one from the male, and she's been picking on him a lot. I think he's quite sad about it. Now, with the talking about how long do the mums stay away, if the mums are away for 2-3 days, and the female's picking on her younger brother like this one, it can sometimes result in that siblicide that we've talked about. It's also known as canism. And it is part of a natural process within a hyena social structure, so it is a little bit sad to see and a little bit sad to watch. But yeah, it is pretty normal. So they've now gone back to where we found them, just in that tall grass at the bottom of that fallen over tree. And the older cousin still napping away, but still super cute. If he puts his ears forward, would be a nice little screenshot. And as we are getting ready to wind down, these hyenas, because they are predators and it's starting to cool down, are going to start winding up. And we might just get some of their activity around camp this evening like we usually do. Sometimes we hear them, sometimes we see them, sometimes we just find their tracks in the morning. And when this little one grows up, it'll probably start coming towards our camp as well and investigating all the sounds and smells that we have. So we've had quite the amazing evening thus far, and I have thoroughly enjoyed, as I always do, spending all of this a great time with you. So tomorrow morning it is going to be me out on game drive, and I think it is going to be James out on walk, as far as I know. So I look forward to seeing you all in the morning. Don't forget, we are live from, I believe, if I'm remembering my times correctly, from my morning would be about 11:30 at night for you guys. Sorry, Kirst. Alright, so thank you so much from myself, Ralph, Brent, Jamie, camera crew, FC, and everybody here at Wild Earth. Enjoy your evening.